Hello, 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 everyone. Good evening to all. It is about, I think, 9:30 Eastern Time Zone, somewhere in that area. And I just wanted to go live, almost 9:30. Just wanted to go live for a little while and just talk about a little financial literacy. And most importantly, wanted to talk about inflation and the impact of inflation in America right now and how inflation is impacting households. So, when we look at inflation today and how it's impacting every household in America, I could go and read some stats and tell you how inflation is constantly rising in America. I could go read some stats and tell you whether it went up or whether it went down, but the stats really don't matter. Basically, you can look at inflation and the impact it's had in our households just by simply when you go to the grocery store. The cost of groceries are much higher now than they were a few years ago. They were much higher now than they were a few months ago. And so when we look at inflation today, I want to talk about inflation and I want to talk about strategies that we can put in place to help us fight inflation. Strategies and things that we can do to help us be proactive with the fight of inflation. And so, inflation, when we look at it, the cost of goods and services, the cost of living in America is going up. But what are we doing about it? How are we being proactive? And if you aren't, what can you do now to help yourself fight against inflation and the cost of things going up? Even if you provide a service, you have to participate in the cost of goods and services going up. If you provide a service to others, you can no longer charge the same prices you used to be able to charge. Because let's say you have to go to someone's house and provide a service. Well, now the cost of gas is higher. So, because the cost of gas is higher, you have to now increase your prices. If you have to buy products to do your job or provide a service, those products that you have to buy just to provide the service have now gone up. So, guess what? You now have to charge a price that you did not charge before, for the most part, most people. So, when we talk about inflation and the cost of goods and services, the cost of living increase, we need to do things to help us fight against inflation or prevent inflation from impacting us in a negative way. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Feel free to comment. Feel free, if you are on Facebook and you want to catch me on YouTube, feel free to go to the YouTube channel if you want to. And the YouTube channel is Coach Steele Finance Training. Coach Steele's Finance Training on YouTube. So I'm live on YouTube and I'm live on Facebook. So feel free to watch on either one. So when we look at the increasing inflation, we have to know that there are some things we can do to fight against inflation. What can you do to fight against inflation? It's simple. Either you eliminate some of your debt and bills that you have, or what I want to talk about today is how to increase income or how to increase cash flow. So, if inflation is constantly rising, but you're making more money and you're beating that inflation rise, then it puts you in a better spot for a number of reasons to invest and or to be able to cover things, the cost of living that is continuing to rise. And so, like I said, we don't have to read stats off or go look and see if it's true or not. We all know in our pockets have felt the rise of inflation. The cost of living has definitely gone up. If you're a homeowner, I would tell you to raise your hand, but I wouldn't be able to see it if you did raise your hand. But if there are any homeowners out there, if you own a house and that mortgage is in your name or a portion of that mortgage, your that title, that deed, whatever it is, if you're a homeowner, you have seen recently that the cost of property tax has gone up. And so if you're a homeowner, you can definitely testify and say, hey, you know what? Inflation is having an effect on me being a homeowner. Why? Because simply by looking at your property tax, If you have not got your estimated property tax bill for the year, just hold on and you'll get a chance to look at it. And you'll see that the property taxes, the average person's property tax has increased again. And in the past few years, it has increased. So there are a lot of good things that happen as a homeowner or as an entrepreneur or someone in real estate. There's a lot of good things that happen. Like, for example, the value of houses did go up. So if you're a real estate owner, yes, your net worth went up, but also every time the value of those properties go up, usually your property tax, your property taxes are going to be higher as well. And so there's pros and cons there, and you have to adjust. And so that's an effect of inflation, and that's a result of inflation. And who pays the price for that? What ends up happening? Well, if you're a homeowner, you pay that cost of that property tax going up. If you're an investor and it's a real estate property, then usually the tenant ends up paying the price or the cost of that property tax going up because the landlord or owner of the property usually is not going to take that hit. They're going to increase the price of rent. And so, whether it's commercial property or whether it is residential property, whoever owns that property is going to increase the cost, and that burden is going to end up coming back on the renter. And so when we're fighting inflation, I see what Dejan just said. He just told his buddy this, and maybe he's probably talking about in regards to this increase in inflation. And the reason why I'm doing a live about it is because I truly believe that, unfortunately, no matter what stats they throw at us, I believe it's going to get worse. And what I mean is the cost of living is going to increase for the average person. Rent prices, I just don't see them going down. I just don't see where they're going down anytime soon because they just increased the property taxes. And I don't want to stay on real estate too long on this, but I just want everyone to understand the impact of it is as they increase the property taxes of the owner of that real estate, they're not going to, the real estate owner is not going to take the hit, whether it's commercial or whether it's residential. Now, I will say this, there are some owners who can take the hit without increasing rent, but they will have probably had jumped inside a good, they probably had good financing on that loan for years so that the increase in property tax didn't affect them as much, but it still would it would still be more expensive than it was before. Or if there's a real estate owner or a homeowner, an investor who flat out owns the property, then he or she may not increase the rent if they chose not to, only because they can that slight increase won't affect them as much because they don't have financing on that property. So therefore, majority of the rent at that point is profit anyway. But that would just be them doing it out of the kindness of the heart. But they can only do it for so long because as the property taxes and not to mention insurance, insurance goes up as well. As those things continue to climb, then the owners have to increase it. Same thing with Walmart or whoever else. If the cost of fuel, transportation, you name it, all these things come into play as it's a domino effect on everything. So the cost of living and the cost of goods and services are going to continue to rise. And if you are an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, man, woman, you're going to end up having to increase your prices on the services you provide to be able to keep up, maintain, and stay in the green. Because at the end of the day, if you're in business, of course, you want your pockets in the green. Now, what you report on your taxes may be something different, but you want your pockets to be green. It's okay if your taxes say red. You want to pay less back to the government as possible, or to the IRS, if you can, staying within the rules of the IRS as well. But I'm talking about, how do we fight against inflation? What do we do to protect ourselves against the cost of living and the cost of goods and services? If you're going to get a haircut, whatever your haircut cost you 3 years ago, who knows? It might have almost be close to doubled by now at this point. But W-2 employees, what do? You work a 9 to 5. You clock in, you clock out, you clock in, you clock out. So if that is your only source of income as a W-2 employee, what do you do? Because I don't want to say you're limited, but if you're a W-2 employee and all you have coming in far as income is from that job that you work, then you are relying on whatever they choose to pay you, and or however you adjust what you have going into a retirement account and what you have coming out of a retirement account. So as a W-2 employee, how do you fight against inflation? What are the strategies that you can do? And of course, you have to fight against inflation now, and you always have to be proactive to fight against inflation that is to come later on. In other words, when you get ready to retire, which, that's a broad term when we talk about the word retire, but whenever you get ready to step away from that W-2 job, what have you put to the side or in investments to help you prepare for inflation that is to come? Now, I won't necessarily deal with future inflation, but the current inflation and immediate inflation that I believe is going to get worse in the next, I don't know, few days, in the next few months as well. What do you do as a W-2 employee? Well, I think it's important at this point that you really lock in on your job. Whatever it is that you do, make it a point to really lock in on your job and see whatever you can do to improve your situation, whether it's the position that you hold, whether it's a raise, whether it's an opportunity to make bonuses, or an opportunity to go take some classes, to get certifications under your belt, to go get training, even if it's some training that is provided and it adds some more certificates or some more expertise to your tool belt. I suggest go getting those things, because if it will help you the next time a promotion or an opportunity or increase in pay comes because you did that training, because you went to these classes, because you went and got those certs, whatever it is, I suggest go do those things to help yourself prepare to fight against inflation that is to come. The cost of living, I believe, is going to continue to go up for homeowners, for renters. If you're going to the store, if you're buying, of course, if you grow your own food, maybe you'll save a little money. But even the cost of certain things there may go up to the maintenance in growing your own food. So when we look at that as a W-2 employee, I think now is the perfect time to be very, very proactive in a number of things, not just getting certifications or going to get extra training that can potentially get you a raise, promotion, or job opportunities, or be cross-trained. I'll say that as well. If your job has the ability to be cross-trained in some other areas, whether you work in an office, whether you work in a warehouse, wherever it is, be willing to be cross-trained and be flexible just in case something does happen. If they have to let someone go, if they need people who are multifaceted, you are flexible enough to get in where you can fit in and make yourself more marketable than the next person, to make yourself as valuable as possible during these difficult times as people are trying to scrounge and make it day by day, month by month. Also, contractors, you have different contractors, they do different things, work in different places. Contractors, it's tough as well, because if you have a contract or you have a certain agreement amount of time that your contract is for, you constantly have to be updating your resume. I think that's important too, whether you're a W-2 employee or whether you're a contractor, to help you fight against inflation and prepare for what's to come. I believe it's important that you constantly update your resume, keep it fresh, keep it new, constantly be on the lookout for what opportunities may be out there for you to transition to. So, how can you, another way to fight against inflation? Well, look for better job opportunities or higher paying job opportunities or more secure opportunities by keeping your resume fresh. That way you can be able to look at the landscape and see if there's something good or better out there for you. Just because you leave one place doesn't mean it's always better. So make sure that there's a great opportunity. If you leave something that you already have that is secure, that is good, make sure that you're leaving to better your situation as well. And what's interesting is sometimes you can take an opportunity that is, I would say, lesser pay, but it opens the door later on for a greater opportunity to make more money as well. But if you're going to do that, position yourself now and situate and adjust your budget in a way that if you do make an adjustment, if you do call an audible and take a job or position that where you'll make less because it sets you up to make greater later on, position yourself financially first so you don't just dive into a negative situation and you're not prepared for it. Or if you're making less money, you now don't have enough to maintain yourself. You don't have enough to maintain your health, maintain yourself as far as food. So just keep that in mind if you do transition to something like that. Inflation is still moving and operating. So budget accordingly. Also, if you're self-employed or whether you are a contractor, I'm sorry, if you're a W-2 employee or a contractor, start looking at things that create an opportunity for you to work for yourself. Not necessarily that it has to be full-time, but it's something that you can do on the side. And so you employ yourself, you're self-employed, and it might be something that you do like creating a product. Find something simple, a product that you can create and then potentially sell to make some extra money on the side. Whether you sell it online, if you work during the week, maybe you sell it on the weekends. That product that you create, it may be something out of wood. It may be the fact that you are baking products, whether it's cake, cupcakes, you name it, whether it's cooking plates, whatever it is. Find something that you can do to make some extra money on the side to help you bring in more cash flow, to help you bring in more money, to help you fight against inflation. Be very creative. You might not be able to make anything, but you know how to clean. Well, people are looking for someone to help them clean their houses. So that's another opportunity. You may be able to do some cleaning on the side. Everyone doesn't feel like or have time, whether it's cleaning windows or uh, doing little things around their house. They're so busy, they're constantly in and out, in and out. And so you can have an opportunity to clean somebody's house on the weekend to make some extra money. And you may not do it every weekend, but it's just like when you cut grass. When I was younger in middle school and high school, I started off cutting one person's grass, and I may cut that grass every 2 weeks. But then next thing you know, you get two or three customers, and next thing you know, you have a yard that you're cutting every weekend. Same thing with cleaning houses. You may start off with one client. That one client gets excited that you help them, so they refer you to the next person. Next thing you know, you may have two or three, and you may not need any more. That might be enough that it gave you enough extra income to help you fight against inflation or help prep set you up for whatever it is that you need to do, whether it's future investing or knocking out some debt at a faster pace to help you fight against inflation. And so we have to be able to increase our income for dealing with inflation. You know, the average person, you know, a few years ago, they had a car note, and that car note might be anywhere between, you know, $300 to $500 a month. Well, now it's completely switched. Now the average, I can't say the average, but now if your car note is only 500 a month, it's almost like a miracle. Most people, many people are paying car notes that are anywhere between 700 to 1,000 a month. So car notes are now looking like what rent payments used to look like a few years ago. And so we have to be able to fight against inflation by bringing in more income and, of course, eliminating debt. And so it's always good to bring in more income. So it may be something because you can create more income where it is consistent, or you create more income where it's temporary. And so use both as you fight against inflation, the consistent and the temporary. So, like an example of temporary short term income may be doing a yard sale. And by doing a yard sale on a weekend, you get rid of a lot of clutter and different things in the house that you didn't need, while at the same time bringing in more income. You would be surprised what you have that you no longer use, that you don't want, that someone else could use and it would benefit them. And so, what you would do is not only help yourself by bringing in more income, fighting against inflation, but also you would help someone else by providing a product at a lesser price that they would have had to pay if they went to a store or somewhere. So, you help them fight against inflation as well, while you help yourself fight against inflation. And so that's a double whammy, kill two birds with one stone. And so that's another creative way to fight against inflation. Like I said, yard sales, getting rid of stuff, finding stuff that you no longer need, that you no longer use, whether it's clothes, whether it's electrical items, whether it's things that you have in your kitchen that are sitting there collecting dust. Go make some money off of it. Don't make dust, make money. And so then you can take that money and reinvest it and continue to allow that money to flip and work for you to help you fight against inflation. Also, another way to fight against inflation, one of the last things that I'll discuss today, as we're around about 21 minutes, and I'll probably, go for maybe about 9 more minutes, do about 30 minutes total, is passive income. I believe that is one of the best ways to fight against inflation is to give yourself an opportunity to make passive income. Passive income, passive income, passive income. And my own simple definition of passive income is money that is coming in to my pockets, into my bank account, money that is coming in my favor to my benefit without me necessarily having to be present, without me necessarily having to clock in. You want to be able to make passive income. You want to be able to make money while you are asleep or whether you are awake. And the beautiful part about that is usually if you can make passive income, whether you're asleep or awake, it also becomes generational. It also becomes something that you can pass down because eventually everyone does have to take that long sleep. And so if you can make money while you're asleep or awake, then you can also pass that down to your children, to your seed, and that's always a benefit. But passive income for the present is very important, and passive income for your future is just as important as well. How can you make passive income? Once again, someone may make products, they may post them on a website, people are buying them. So while you're working at your W 2 job, whether you're doing your contract work, whether you're working for yourself, that product is being sold and you are making money. Transactions are happening without you necessarily having to physically be present. That's just one way to make passive income. One of the best ways and favorite ways that I like to talk about making passive income is through real estate. And so with real estate, you can have what we call long term rentals and short term rentals. Another term or another way people make short term rental income is by doing Airbnb. And so we know that Airbnb became very popular the past few years and became even more popular during the pandemic. So people made a lot of money off of treating their homes like a hotel and allowing people to Airbnb their house instead of having to go to a hotel. And of course, now the Airbnb marketplace is more saturated now than it used to be, but people are still making money off of it. I believe if you're going to do Airbnb, I believe you need to be very creative with the location, first of all. Put yourself in a position to where no matter what, you know that this property, where it's located, that people need somewhere to stay, and this is going to have to be a spot where they stay at. So when you're talking about short-term rental, Airbnbs, look at the location where that property is. Don't just get a property somewhere in any location, hoping and thinking that it's going to have success with Airbnb when it's not in a good location where people are frequenting and need to be at. So just keep that in mind. And just because it's in a spot where people are constantly going, just know that there are other people who are Airbnb their property as well. So now you have to be competitive and creative with what you have on the inside of the house to draw people in. So that's a whole nother side of it, which is not my expertise about how to draw people in far as marketing with your Airbnb. But another way to bring in passive income is through long-term rental. So when you have long-term rentals, usually you have a tenant, whether they're in a month-to-month agreement or whether they are in a 12-month lease agreement with you. And so with bringing in passive income to help you fight against inflation that is happening now and is going to continue to happen for the next few months, having real estate rental properties does help. I don't care if it's one property, I don't care if it's two properties. Bringing in that passive income will help you out for a number of reasons when it comes to long term rentals, even if it's land that you rent out. Sometimes it's not that you necessarily are renting out a structure, a property, or a house, but you might be simply renting out land. How can you rent out land? Simple. Someone may put a vehicle on your property and you rent out that land to whether it's trucks that are constantly on the road. You could rent out parking lot space. There are so many creative ways to get into real estate, or whether it's an RV where someone leaves it there, or whether it's a trailer. The list goes on how you could make passive income just simply off of land. Somebody may have land, isn't doing anything with it, but you can take that land and make some money off of it. During the holidays, there are constant people looking where to sell their pumpkins, looking for land to sell their Christmas trees on, looking for land to have yard sales on at good locations. And so when people are looking to sell Christmas trees, pumpkins, or have big yard sales, they may be able to use your land. How does that help you? Well, like I mentioned in the beginning, if property tax is going up on these properties and you have land, then you're paying property tax on that land, whether it is a house or whether it's just land and it's sitting there. You're paying property tax on these things and it's going up, it's constantly increasing. So you'll see an increase in your escrow in your mortgage payment. Now, if your mortgage is paid off completely, then you'll just see an increase in your property taxes, whether your city or your county sends you the bill for that. So even if you have land, take advantage of renting it out, whether it's long term or short term, and make some money off of it. Use that money. So now, if you're not doing anything with that land, you can take the income, you can take that cash and help you pay the property taxes. So now it's not coming out of your pocket, so to speak, but someone else paid you. Maybe you can make a profit or come out even. So that's another way to help you fight against inflation. Long term rentals. So when you have a tenant in your property, and whether you have one home, whether you have two homes, whether you have a vacation home, if you have two properties, and of course you're only staying in one, but you go back to that other property to visit, to vacation. Well, on those days that you aren't there, you could Airbnb it out. You could do short-term rentals if you're not doing it in a long-term rental situation. And so make passive income off of those extra properties. If someone has a property that you know and they're not using it, you may be able to work out a deal with them and split the profits with them. So you may be able to use someone else's asset by using your brain to bring in more cash flow for your situation and bring in more cash flow into your house. So be very, very creative on how you make more passive income. So you don't always necessarily have to have the asset or the house. You just need to be the brains on how to bring in the money and split the cash flow, make a deal with that person. So as inflation continues to rise in America, we have to be very creative with how we bring in more cash flow. When you work, whether you're working or whether you're retired, you must understand that you're kind of limited to what you have in those moments, as far as whether it's W 2 income or whether it's retirement income. So that's why it's important to be flexible and creative with using real estate. Now, some people long term create passive income through dividend stocks. And so you can research and look up good dividend stocks to invest in. But once again, starting out investing in dividend stocks, you're not going to make a lot of passive income that's going to make a big difference immediate. That's a long-term play to bring in passive income later on, years later. So when you look at dividend stocks and fighting against inflation, I would use that more so as a long-term play and not necessarily a short-term play. And if you do choose dividend stocks to help you fight against inflation in the future, whenever you make a profit, whenever you get dividends back from those dividend stocks, whether it's monthly or whether it's quarterly, whether it's annually, whenever you get them, always take that money and reinvest it back in there. That way you have your money working for you, but also the profits that your money made working for you as well. And so now the dividends that you're making are now buying stocks and shares as well. And so it allows that build up and that growth to grow even faster. Now, when we talk about long-term real estate, long-term rentals, and we talk about real estate, once again, keep in mind you're looking at properties and you're evaluating them, and it's not difficult. It's not complicated as you think. You're looking at properties and you're evaluating them, and you're doing homework. You're doing research to see if you acquire a property, is it possible for you to make a good profit? Can you make 10 to 12% profit on this investment? And so take your time and do the research that is necessary and don't be intimidated because it is possible to make a profit and it is possible to make passive income by doing a little bit of homework. Someone's going to do the homework, someone isn't. And the people who do the homework end up winning. The people who do the homework end up finding the deals. The people who are willing to go the extra mile in these moments are going to win and find the deals that you drove by and said it's impossible for me to be able to do. If you're looking for real estate mentorship, I know a great company that does real estate mentorship that guides clients through the process on making proper deals, having the right structure. Feel free to reach out to me, whether it's through YouTube, whether it's through Facebook, Coach Steele training sessions, Coach Steele finance training on YouTube, and of course, Simon Steele on Facebook. But feel free to reach out to me on either one, and I can connect you and schedule you to have a conversation with a team of people who are great at teaching real estate, and they can talk to you about that a little bit further. But it's not as difficult as you think. It's just like doing homework that your teacher gives you, and so you complete those homework assignments, you do your research, you study for the test, and it's all about having conversations. So whenever you're looking at a property, you want to evaluate and see what it takes to put in, what you may have to put in to reap results, to get a benefit, favorable benefit for you financially. And so I always tell everyone, when you look at a property, I remember three letters, MPI. And of course, it's, you have that mortgage payment, and with that mortgage payment comes property tax and insurance. And so when you look at those things, you get to see what it costs you monthly to make that payment. And some properties, it may not cost you anything monthly, but just for the average person, just thinking about what it costs, I have a video where I show people how to use a mortgage calculator. So if you go on YouTube, Coach Steele's finance training, you'll be able to go on there and look at the video where I show you how to use a mortgage calculator. And the name of the video is, I believe it's called Should You Buy a House? Should I buy a house? And so if you look at that video, it'll show you how to do just some basic evaluations on what to see. And once you see what it costs you monthly to pay that mortgage payment, then you can look at the comps in the area. You can look at the comparables and see what the rent is going for in those areas. And then once you see that, now you can evaluate, what does my profit look like? What does my return on investment potentially look like? You're only doing homework. It didn't it didn't force you to buy the property. It didn't force you to make a deal, but you're looking at an opportunity to make passive income that will affect you long term. And the other benefit of real estate that I like about passive income, not only does it bring you more income, but it also gives you tax write offs. So keep that in mind. You want to be able to have tax write offs so that helps you save more money. It helps you keep more money in your pocket unless you have to give away to Uncle Sam. And by doing that, it helps you fight against inflation, which is what this is about. How do we fight against inflation? Well, once again, W 2 employees, make sure that you're working hard, make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do, continue to impress your supervisors, get certifications, get training, go to any extra training that you can. Find out what you can do or need to do to advance. Contractors, continue to work hard, continue to keep your resumes fresh, continue to evaluate the landscape and the marketplace out there and find out if there's better opportunities for you out there for growth or better contracts that you could make out there. Self-employed people, W-2 people, contractors, if you are not self-employed, find products that you can create, whether it's baking, whether it's cooking, whether it's cleaning, whether it's cutting grass, whether it's doing what I call short-term income, yard sales, selling things here and there. Find ways to bring in more income during this time as inflation continues to increase. Like I said, I don't think the cost of living is going to go down anytime soon. I think it's going to continue to go up, especially for homeowners and for renters. So no one is exempt because these property taxes continue to rise. They continue to increase. So now, of course, if you are exempt, and I know some people who are 100% disabled through VA, they may be exempt from paying property taxes, and that's great on that one property. But if they also are real estate investors, it's still affecting their other properties that they have, whether it's residential or commercial properties. And so just keep that in mind when it comes to that passive income, whether it's real estate, whether it's dividend stocks for the long-term play, and whether it's short-term rental, long-term rental, or whether you find some land to rent out. Now's the time to be creative with what you're trying to do in bringing in more income. Don't wait until the cost of toilet tissue and everything else continues to rise. Be proactive now, and I appreciate every person that tuned in and listened. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, especially on YouTube. Jump over there and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be going live on Facebook and YouTube on Saturday to talk about some more financial literacy. Not quite sure what the subject will be on Saturday, but I know it will be focused around financial literacy. So we're going to continue to push the needle. We're going to continue to push and drive forward to wake everyone up and make them more aware about their finances, because I believe we're going into a season in time where we're going to have to really be on point and crisp with our finances, or we will see them fly right out the door as the cost of living continues to increase. And people who are business owners and the people who are in position financially are not going to take the hit as things continue to rise. They're only going to increase the price of their goods and services and their products. The cost of living, all of that will increase to give them a buffer and keep them safe from losing money. They'll continue to try to make more. So you have to be proactive on your end as well. I appreciate you listening. Stay tuned for Saturday morning when I go live, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time zone. We're going to talk about more financial literacy. Last Saturday, we talked about Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, high yield interest savings accounts, where to put our money at to be strategic long-term and short-term so that our money is working for us. We want to make our money work for us because we are so busy working hard. We cannot afford to overwork ourselves and not allow our money to work for us. We have to have both things happen simultaneously so that we can win. Be blessed, and you have a nice evening.